7 years in power, Zimbabwe's President Robert Mugabe has resigned as the country's leader. The 93-year-old had clung on to power a week after an army takeover and expulsion from his own party on Sunday. Well, Mugabe sent a resignation letter to Parliament shortly after impeachment proceedings began, the only legal way to force him out. Wild celebrations broke out as the Speaker announced Mugabe would step down. And there were scenes of jubilation across the country. Thousands of Zimbabweans poured into the streets as the news of the end of Mugabe's era. Now the ruling ZANU-PF party says Emmerson Mnangagwa, the vice president whose dismissal triggered Mugabe's downfall, will be sworn in as president. Haru Matasa reports now from Harare.
Jubilation on the streets of Harare. Across the country that Robert Mugabe ruled for 37 years, wild celebrations were gone for hours, maybe even days. News that Mugabe was stepping down came as both houses of parliament sat in an extraordinary session to debate the president's impeachment. The speaker suspended the session and told MPs that he'd received a letter.
A letter from the President, State House, Harare.
Mugabe wrote that he was resigning with immediate effect voluntarily in order to facilitate a smooth transfer of power. To the crowds outside, those were words many thought they'd never hear.
Ever since I was born, I have never thought that I would see this day. I'm so glad. For 37 years, we have been suffering. Our fathers have been suffering. They went to war. My father is a war veteran. He went to war. He died a pauper while Robert Mugabe and his wife were going to Paris to shop while we were starving here.
Mugabe's departure comes an emotional week after the military first took to the streets, intervening in party politics over his succession. It likely means that this man, Emmerson Mnangagwa, will become Zimbabwe's interim leader ahead of elections in 2018. Though exuberant now, some are cautious about the future.
Any person who is going to rule Zimbabwe after this, he has learned his lesson and will not repeat the same thing. Because what will simply happen is what we did on Saturday and what we are doing now, the people are now empowered. We only feared one man, that was Robert Mugabe.
And politicians are gearing up for a new fight ahead.
We have supported Mnangagwa to topple Mugabe through these demonstrations. And we expect that Mnangagwa has to play the game fairly. If it is not going to play the game fairly, we will take him on also. We are sick and tired of ZANU-PF's rule.
Mnangagwa had for decades been a faithful Mugabe lieutenant, described as the president's enforcer, close to the army and nicknamed the Crocodile. Few would describe him as a Democrat. Many are right to wonder whether Zimbabwe's new era will be much different from the past. On this night, and for now though, not many care.
People are calling it Independence Day. They say they've been liberated from Robert Mugabe and his wife. Now the hard work begins. They know it's not going to be easy.
No one knows what's going to happen next. It's a new dawn for the country, for a people who have only known one leader since 1980. Haru Matasa, Al Jazeera, Harare.
Well, Paul Brennan takes a look now at the life and career of the veteran Zimbabwean leader.
There will never be a regime change here. There will always be the people of Zimbabwe in control.
That was 2007. 10 years later, when the people let their views be known, albeit encouraged by Zimbabwe's military, Robert Mugabe ignored them and then surprised them when he didn't announce his resignation in a widely predicted TV address.
I thank you and good night.
After 37 years in control, Mugabe found it hard to let go. He's made a career by deftly outmaneuvering potential rivals. One of the first to be sidelined was Joshua Nkomo. A fellow liberation fighter, Nkomo was leader of the ZAPU party. Mugabe merged them with his ZANU-PF party. Their alliance was uneasy, and Nkomo was relegated to the figurehead role of vice president. At the turn of the century, Mugabe started seizing farms owned by whites to appease supporters angry at the slow pace of land reform. The economy shrank by a third. Unemployment soared above 80%. Out of this economic turmoil, another rival emerged.
We must give Mugabe a resounding defeat.
Morgan Tsvangirai formed the Movement for Democratic Change. He became popular enough to risk defeating Mugabe in a presidential election runoff in 2008. Tsvangirai was beaten up, frequently arrested and intimidated. Dozens of his supporters were killed, allegedly by ZANU-PF thugs. The MDC leader withdrew from the election. Worried about the stability of its neighbour, South Africa forced both men into a coalition. Tsvangirai became prime minister, but Mugabe retained control of the police, army and secret service, and with that, the real power. Mugabe won the election 4 years ago by a landslide. Tsvangirai's supporters said voter registration lists were manipulated. Critics said Mugabe was just as ruthless at dealing with rivals in his own party. War veteran and Vice President Joyce Mujuru was fired in 2014, accused of corruption and plotting to assassinate Mugabe. This time Mugabe's wife Grace was seen as instrumental in engineering Mujuru's downfall. It was the clearest signal yet that Mugabe was now not only protecting his own position, but also laying the path for his wife to succeed him. The sacking of Emmerson Mnangagwa made that obvious. The vice president, nicknamed the Crocodile, had been in pole position to succeed Mugabe. Firing him cleared the way for his wife. But this time the 93-year-old president had gone too far. Mnangagwa is close to the military leadership, and they stepped in. After 37 years, Robert Mugabe's days of exercising unchallenged power were over.
Well, reaction to Mugabe's resignation has been coming in from around the world. While he was a towering figure on the African continent, his influence was also felt globally. Tanya Page reports from Johannesburg.
As the news that Robert Mugabe had resigned hit the streets of Johannesburg, there were celebrations, relief that one of Africa's strongmen had gone.
We want to go back home, even tomorrow, even now at night.
Missed us for many years, but now we are willing to go back.
I'm so happy, and now we can go back at any time with freedom at last.
These are a fraction of the hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of Zimbabweans who've left their homeland in a desperate search for work, and some who've fled political persecution. A sense that a profound change has taken place was echoed at the United Nations.
This Secretary General and his predecessors have made clear that we expect all leaders to listen to their people.
And from Britain's Foreign Secretary.
This is a moment of hope for Zimbabwe and for the people of Zimbabwe.
The State Department was also looking to the future.
We look forward to and hope for free and fair elections.
He was a despot to some, but remained an influential figure in African politics. Many Zimbabweans believe countries like neighbouring South Africa helped keep him in power by approving elections some thought were questionable. Since Zimbabwe's military intervened, South African President Jacob Zuma has encouraged a negotiated settlement. But it was Zambia's President Edgar Lungu who took the lead, reacting to Mugabe's resignation, saying it's time for the army to return to their barracks so Zimbabweans can focus on cohesion and unity. A call echoed by the main opposition in South Africa, the Democratic Alliance. Another opposition party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, said Zimbabwe should advance and promote Mugabe's land reform program that stripped white commercial farmers of property, placing it in the hands of black people instead.
Views of Robert Mugabe's legacy in this region will be mixed. Many people supported his ideals, but not the way they were realised. And for a long time, many people have thought he should step down. They'll be glad it's happened peacefully, but not that it took so long. Tanya Page, Al Jazeera, Johannesburg.